The H1 Plus is a compact 3-axis gimbal coming in at an affordable price range, around £465 at the time of filming this video. And if you want to learn how to balance this, then see my video in the links down below. I like that it's very compact, very nice for traveling long distances with. If it's not got a camera attached to it, then it folds down nice and compact pretty much into any backpack. It has motors a little more powerful than most of these other small gimbals, which means that it can handle small DSLRs as well as mirrorless cameras with a heavy quick release plate. You have 5 modes available via 5 different presses, so for example 1, 2 or 1, 2, 3, etc. And that allows you to do various things depending on how you set it up in the settings. It's fairly quick and easy to balance. It could take about half an hour for the first time, as you're learning it. I've posted a video explaining every single step you need to do to balance this thing, and there'll be a link to that video down below. But once you've got the hang of it, then it only takes about 5 minutes. And if you've got a quick release plate on there, then when you take this out of the bag, connect the camera up, then there's basically no balancing needed, or maybe just moving the camera backwards and forwards if it's a sliding quick release plate. If you're switching lenses and they're not too different from each other, then it's fairly quick to do. But if there's a big weight difference between the lenses, then you might have to rebalance it when you switch lenses. The build quality here is very good and it feels like it could, hold up to some use. But I would still be, fairly gentle with it, just, because it's got electronics and stuff inside it. Now, I was really impressed with the flying performance of the H1 Plus. It gave really good results with basically no effort. For example, I did a tour of my studio and I was able to just aim it at myself and completely not pay attention to what this was doing. And I was really impressed with how well this could handle really fast running, where other gimbals I've tried simply just couldn't handle it and just aimed in completely the wrong direction as soon as I started running with them really quickly. Whereas this thing, when I ran really quickly, some shakes were starting to be visible, but it was still aiming perfectly straight, and with a little bit of a stabilized lens or some stabilization in post or something like that, it can actually be usable footage when running really quickly and that kind of thing. I ran with this full speed over grass, over quite a long distance, and it kept that shot the entire time, with a little bit of shaking, but it kept the shot usable the entire time. So I was really, really impressed with that. Now, the mobile app to connect to this allows for really quick access to change settings, which is great. I'm not sure if there's an iPhone app, but connecting through an Android phone was nice and easy. Took a little bit longer with a computer, but still doable. The handle is comfortable and grippy, but if you want better control of this, you can actually hold it higher right here. And if you do that, you need to be careful not to press the buttons, but this might be a little easier for some people to hold, or just hold it down here. That works fine as well. Now, here are the things that I think could be improved about this. The H1 Plus does require you to change the settings to be correct for your weight of camera the first time you use this. So you connect it to a mobile phone or a computer and you change the settings. Now, I don't know what settings you should be using. I can tell you, I'll put a link down below to the settings that I'm using. It should be easy enough to find out what settings to use without learning what each different number means when you're in the settings. But it's fairly easy to do. Just if I had to do the settings for someone else's camera using the app without knowing what numbers to put in, I would have no clue. But if someone tells me you put in these 6 numbers or whatever it is, then it's nice and easy to do. Just type them in and you're good to go. I'd like to see a place where users can share their presets with regards to camera settings, because there is the functionality here to save and export and load presets. So it'd be great if Pilotfly made a little section in their website where users can just download something. For example, you download the A7S Plus medium-sized lens preset and put that on there. Now, battery life is only about an hour or 2 depending on how it's being used, but it would be very easy to add an external battery to this. You just connect it at the bottom here using the screw there and then plug it into here. Now, the H1 Plus is usable flipped upside down like this, but you might need to change the balance a little bit when you do that. For example, now that I flipped it, it's going a tiny bit more to the left. And it's also usable with this piece over here. So if you've got a flip out screen like on the GH4, then you can use it with the screen flipped out if you want, and then have this motor sitting over here instead. Now, the H1 Plus does seem to want calibration fairly often, which would mean putting it down on a flat surface and then holding down the button for a few seconds and then letting it calibrate. And that is a little annoying because it wants that basically every time you turn it on. But there's a little trick which I think Dave Dugdale came up with, which is that you set it up so that 4 button presses, or however many you want, allow you to control this adjustment. So for example, if it's like this, meaning I can see that it wants calibration, I just press the button 4 times and then adjust it so that it's correct, like that. Another thing that I think can be improved is that the button here is a little too easy to press and it's a little too rubbery, so it sort of gets a little stuck sometimes Not really a problem, you just sort of touch it and it moves back into the correct position. But an improved button here would be great, and a joystick here that can go in all directions would be a little improvement, but this, sort of only one-way joystick, it works okay. Another improvement would be a tool-free design so that you can adjust it without needing this little tool. What I recommend is to attach this thing to some sort of keyring or little strap or something so that you can connect it to your pocket or to your belt loop or whatever so that you don't lose it. Now, it would be possible to change these screws to make it a toolless design actually fairly easily, but if you get screws that are too long, that go in too far into the unit, then they could potentially cause damage, like if they go into the motor or something. And I've spoken to Pilotfly, and as far as I'm aware, it should be doable for them to sell a little upgrade kit that allows you to have, a tool-free adjustment, just, little thumb screws. These are actually just standard size screws, so you could get some thumb screws on eBay and replace these yourself, but if you get ones that are too long, then they could go too far into the unit and cause damage. As always with my improvement suggestions, do it at your own risk. So my conclusion is the H1 Plus is a superb little stabilizer that isn't perfect but allows for really good results, both when moving really quickly and when moving slower for more controlled moves. But of course you do need to have this balanced properly, and you do need to have the correct settings put into there for this to work properly. Now, how does the H1 Plus compare to a fully mechanical, meaning a non-electronic stabilizer like this, like the GlideCam HD1000 here? Well, this thing is very easy to use once you have it set up properly. So you balance it, you have the correct settings there, and then you just sort of point and shoot, and it gives great results. With the GlideCam, after you've learned how to balance it, which takes time as well, then you need to learn how to use it and get practice with it and just continue practicing to improve the way that you're walking and the way you're holding it and the way that you're balancing it. And it's just continuously improving until you get really good at it. And it's not very quick to do. It takes quite a lot of time to actually get really good with the GlideCam. Now the H1 Plus allows you to run, whereas with the GlideCam, I've never been able to get really good results while running. Not because this thing can't handle it, but because just running, I can walk very fast, but running at full speed while keeping both my hands doing this perfect sort of balancing act just doesn't give me very good results. And if I hold it with just one hand and I run, then it just starts to aim in the wrong direction. So in theory, you could run and use this while running if you got loads of practice with it. Walking fast is doable with this after a lot of practice. Walking fast with this is doable with basically zero practice. So what's the advantage of something like this? Well, they're a little cheaper and they don't need batteries. In some situations, unusable, whereas this thing will get very good results. Size and weight-wise, they're, very similar. Okay, so here I wanted to show you some examples of how stable the H1 Plus is with various movements of the handle. As usual, no other forms of stabilization were used anywhere in this review. I was very pleased with the smooth panning and tilting when using the follow mode, which felt very natural to use and gave smooth moves in the footage. So in conclusion, the Pilotfly is a great little stabilizer. It's stable and very easy to use once it's set up. Setting it up did take some time. This is the main downside to the H1 Plus. The footage was not 100% perfect, but was mostly very good once balanced correctly. One of the challenges with any small gimbal is keeping your own movements smooth and at a consistent speed, because while the gimbal can stabilize the camera, it cannot help how fast or slow you move with the stabilizer, or how much you lift and lower the stabilizer as you take steps, etc. This is mainly due to the light weight of the device and the handle being positioned below the camera. So when it comes to how smoothly it moves through space, you will often get slightly better results with a large gimbal that has two handles to the sides of the camera. A simple way to improve this is to use both hands to hold the handle of the H1 Plus. So who do I think this would be good for? I think it's a great stabilizer if you need long moving shots while keeping your kit very portable, or for those who want to get long moving shots without learning to use a mechanical stabilizer, for example when shooting narrative films, music videos and commercials. It is suitable for live events, but because this is an electronic device, I would highly recommend having a backup if it is an important event. For example, taking a GorillaPod as a backup stability device, or bringing a second camera operator who's using a tripod. And of course remember to bring an external battery for the H1 Plus if needed. Now for documentary work, I would not use an electronic gimbal. I would need something that allows me to quickly change lenses, zoom in and out, change camera settings, power on and off instantly, etc. Basically, be completely uninterrupted while filming. Luckily, this kind of work usually requires a lot less camera movement. A small shoulder rig like the GorillaPod Focus would be my preference here. I would also not choose an electronic stabilizer if I'm traveling to a remote location where there's no place to charge batteries. Also, don't expect any handheld stabilizer to give you super slow movements like you would get with a slider. A person just can't move their body that slowly and still keep a consistent speed. So, for my own uses, I still prefer something without motors or batteries, even though they are harder to use and are usually more limiting. This is just a personal preference though. I would recommend the H1 Plus. It has a few little quirks, but overall, it's really good. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Visit my channel for lots more awesome filmmaking and photography videos, like lighting techniques, DIY projects, behind the scenes tutorials, cameras, lenses, adapters, shoulder rigs, stabilizers, flashes, LEDs, microphones, bags, straps, studio backgrounds, tripods, float heads, sliders, multi-tools, and lots more cool stuff!